Welcome, by the way. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the guys on YouTube who are watching this, um, after the fact. And probably the stream as a whole will be kind of edited for YouTube so that it'll be more digestible and basically cut down in chunks. But what we are going to do today is we are going to paint three different models. We got Scar, Chopper, and right here we have Celtic. The three model kits sculpted by Naren. These are resin kits, and we are going to do the skin today. And I'm going to use the airbrush, and I'm gonna go through several different techniques basically to get a consistent coat of paint on all three of them, make it interesting. And before I'm gonna start, I'm gonna clean the model of any dust that might have accumulated while they were sitting on a shelf. They should be relatively clean, but just want to make sure that at least the areas that we're gonna paint are as dust free as possible basically. It's gonna be a little bit of a tutorial stream. Gonna talk a lot about what I'm doing, what kind of techniques that I'll be using, and hopefully it'll help people kind of get into the groove of painting, kind of show you guys some of the simpler techniques, and maybe get into the more complicated stuff later. But for today's stream, I am going to do just the basic stuff for the skin. And when the skin is all done, we are going to work on the armor, the trophies, the dreadlocks, obviously. But we have a long way to go. So here's the airbrush that I'm using. It's the Meng model Yunmo MTS002. A very good airbrush, highly recommended for detailed work, and hopefully I can do a good job today. So what I usually do is I take a mixing cup and I take my base color, basically that is basically the color that I am gonna go back to at a later stage, because I want to kind of bring it back. We're gonna cover it with all different sorts of colors, so that's basically the color that I'm going to use for now. It's not mixing paint is not an exact science, but it does require some knowledge about mixing. I mix it with some thinner so that it flows through the airbrush better. Let me get an old brush to that's a good mixing brush. And what I'm looking for is to create like a transparent kind of paint, transparent paint consistency basically, so that I can layer it and it blends better with other colors basically. That's what we're looking for. I don't have like a standard formula or anything like that. And it kind of depends on the paint as well, on the brand, on the type of paint, what works well. It also kind of depends on your airbrush, how well the airbrush will spray it. And it's good to know that we have some hands that we need to paint, because these will be perfect for trying out our consistency before we start the heavier work on the bigger parts. So these hands will be a perfect kind of test piece to kind of figure out if our consistency is right. And then I want to clear up my airbrush stand right here. It's in the corner right here. We're gonna need it. Put on the lid. There we go. Put it down there for just a minute. Get situated. I'm going to clean out my mixing cup because I want to use it later. Reuse as much as you can, because lately hobby supplies have become expensive, so we want to reuse as much as we can. So the base color that I'm using is Surface Primer Skeletal Bone by Vallejo. It's a really nice color for predator skin. Kind of depends on the paint scheme that you're going for, but for these three predators, they have a specific color scheme, and I want to keep it as close to the movie look as possible. They are from the first Alien vs Predator movie, so I kind of want to make them movie accurate, and kind of bring out more detail, because in the movie you hardly get to see their skin and stuff like that. So but color wise, I want to stay true to the movie colors. And Skeletal Bone by Vallejo, the Surface Primer, is an excellent color to start with. So that's what I am going to be using. Let me put that safely away. Get hydrated, basically. Probably one of the most important tools in your arsenal when it comes to painting is kitchen towel. There we go. All right, let's try. Let's try and let me try to figure out this. There we go. Paint might be a little bit too thin still. Gonna apply it really, really subtle at first. And kind of the trick to putting on that first layer, the second layer, the base coat basically, is to not blast it on. A lot of people think that using an airbrush, you could just put paint in it and then blast on like it's a spray can. That is a mistake, because that way you're not gonna get good coverage, or you get too much coverage, and then you get you're not getting a consistent coat basically. It goes on too thick, it's gonna run everywhere. You just want to build up those coats slowly. Now this is a very small needle size, so I'm working with really thin lines basically, but it'll kind of allow me to control the overspray basically. That way I'm not gonna get a lot of overspray on the parts that don't need that color. So for example, this armor, I don't want to get too much overspray on that. So the needle size is gonna take me a little bit longer. That's 100% true, but that way I could get in the nooks and crannies without creating too much overspray on the armor. So that is a choice. It's up to everybody how they want to do it, but now you can see that I'm dealing with a skull on the one side and the armor on the other. So what I want to do is I want to minimize my overspray, and that's where the fine needle is gonna come in handy basically. I do feel that I have a little bit too much airflow. That's better. Whoa, 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 whoa. Now, you're always going to get a little bit of overspray. That is alright, especially on the skull. It's not a big deal because the color that I'm spraying is skeletal bone, so it's gonna be close to a bone color, which I'm gonna go for on the skull obviously. So to get a little bit of overspray on the skull is not a big deal, but I do still want to minimize it. I want to be precise. The less cleanup you have to do after is obviously better. Alright, that's the second hand. I think I'm gonna use a paint strainer the next time because I think my airbrush is clogging up sometimes because the paint could be a little bit too old. Whoa. Shake it on, baby. Okay, let it dry. Okay, we got 6 hands. And now we're gonna start the body. Now the good part about this airbrush is that I can get pencil sharp lines, so I just sprayed his arm, his upper arm, his bicep. Basically, I'm not getting any overspray on his leather strap, and that's all thanks to that small needle size. It'll take a little bit longer to cover the entire model, but it just prevents overspraying. And the overspray that I get, it's not a big deal, but I just rather avoid it, just for the just to get a very clean paint job, basically. I'll have to tilt the model, take it off its base. 1 second. There's something therapeutic about painting models, especially with some cool music in the background. Now I'm getting a little bit of overspray because I can be less precise in a tight corner. That's a very tight corner. Probably have to adjust that with a brush. Right now. That's like a very tight spot that I can't reach with the airbrush. I can reach it, but not as precise as with a brush. So I'm just gonna touch up some of these areas, make sure that there's paint there. Because his armor is basically a little bit overhanging, So underneath that armor there's still some skin, so it's a little bit easier to just go in with a brush and then make sure that there's paint there. One of those tight areas again. Now in later stages it won't be such a problem, because we're gonna go in very random with some random patterning and stuff like that, so it won't be as much of an issue. But that base color needs to cover every, you know, every bit of skin basically. He's got some really sharp corners and stuff like that. And with the model not being in too many different parts, it's just a little bit harder to navigate underneath those arms and stuff like that. Whoa. Luckily the legs are the easiest. Yep, getting a lot of overspray. Yep. Time to refill. I'm gonna clean out and do a quick clean. Cleaning out the cup real quick. Yeah, that's better. I really wish this model came in separate pieces, but that just really makes it hard to reach all the tiny spots basically. And this is just a base coat. I haven't even started with the skin patterns and stuff like that, so takes me a little bit longer than I expected. I still have the other two models to base coat as well. The struggles of statue painting, basically. He has a lot of skin patterning already sculpted into it, but to bring that to life you really gotta layer colors, blend and layer colors so that it's not looking uniform. Does that make sense? Oh. Wow. That was fast. Do a quick pass with the brush to make sure that I get into all the corners and cover all the edges that connect to the armor. It's hard enough to paint this model the way it's been sculpted. Just the fact that he's almost one piece is just a little bit inconvenient for the painting process. It's a big model, so just the fact that you have to handle him this way. In some situations the brush has better coverage, but you get brush strokes and stuff like that, and the primer is not too bad. Definitely with the Vallejo primers, they cover very well. Most of the time you just need 2 coats and you won't have brush strokes with primer, because at least the Vallejo primers are so good at leveling, self-leveling, that you almost never see any brush strokes. But with regular paint, so non-primer, I'm not too sure. So I love this song. I'll do all that I can. Alright, let's switch to Celtic. This time I'm gonna start with the feet. There we go. This should go a lot faster because I was struggling with the airbrush a little bit in the beginning, but now that we've got it dialed in, I'm not too worried about the overspray right now. Minimizing it is always good, but you're always gonna get overspray. After trying it a couple of times, I really feel that the AK Interactive acrylic thinner is working really well for me. It's just a little bit on the expensive side, I would say. Well, expensive side. You're using drops at a time, but then again, I think a lot of people have always tried to find cheaper ways to replace something that works really well. I mean, I've tried my own thinner and cleaner and stuff like that, and you're never gonna, at least for me, I haven't found the secret yet, but the thinner from AK just works so much better than what I tried making myself. So at some point, maybe biting the bullet and paying the money is better. I don't know. Other people have found solutions and to make their own. I have not found the best solution yet, but all throughout a paint job I'll try different things, or I use different things. Like for example, the layers that will make up the skin. I will thin the paints with something different, just for the consistency and the transparency, and that works. But for like the base coat, thinning it with just regular acrylic thinner from AK, that just works a lot better than what I've previously used. So I guess your mixtures change based on the stage of your paint job, basically, if that makes sense. tonight. Just a little bit of skin in between that fabric right there. Won't do that. Now I think that I could have base coated them a lot easier by brush, but it'll give me a chance to, pardon the pun, brush up on my airbrushing skills, because I have been a little bit out of the game. So this just gives me a good opportunity to get a better feel for the airbrush again. And because it's on camera, I can't, be messing around. I know that everybody's looking for good painting videos. Definitely, especially on predator skin and stuff like that. So just touching up the just came on a little bit too wet, so I'm just gonna touch that up a little bit. I don't want it to spider too much, because it's gonna pool and I don't want that. So I'm just gonna touch it up with a brush, and using the air from the airbrush to let it dry a little bit. The skin detail on this guy is just insane, just better than the other two. I mean, Chopper has some really good skin detail, but Celtic is really, really nice. Super, super detailed. And sadly for Scar right here, he's got the netting, and the netting just takes away so much detail, because it's sculpted over his skin. There's no real easy way to remove it either. You'd have to sand it all down, and just, you'll damage the sculpt, you'll damage the detail. I know that there are people who've done it with other Naren kits, but I think I'm out of paint. Yeah, I know that there are people who've done it. We're just gonna blow some cleaner through it, just in case. Just touching up some areas while I see them, because sometimes you see something and then you're like, I'll get back to that later, and then for some reason you never find it again, and then that might influence the end result. I don't know. Just when you see something, touch it up immediately. Alright. I think the legs are ready. Oh. Alright. Start with this arm. I'll need to turn him around because I need to get underneath his arms, which is kind of tricky. Alright, so let me see. All we need to do now is his chest and his back, and then he's pretty much base coated. Getting a little bit of overspray on the other features of the chest, but that's not a problem. That's all gonna get touched up at a later stage. All of those trophies are gonna get a different color than the skin, obviously, just to make them stand out. But the overspray is kind of unavoidable at this point. All right. I did see, I forgot his upper arms. When the base coat is all done, oh man, I'm gonna go wild on the skin tones. It's gonna, have all sorts of different techniques and different colors, and like, for example, real skin, right? You got brown, blue, red, yellow, green, all sorts of colors in there, and it's all underneath the skin. So that's kind of what I'm gonna do. But yeah, before I can do that, I really need to make sure that the base coat is good. And then after the skin, gonna do the armor and all the decorations that he has, all the pouches and the belt and all the trophies and stuff like that, the dreadlocks. Everything is gonna get painted. Yep. Okay, music is okay, yeah. Alright, let's start with the feet again, because I always forget to paint. Then I'm all done, and then I'm like, oh god damn it, I need to paint the feet as well, because I always forget that they don't have shoes. Normally, a figure or a statue like has shoes, but renders don't have those. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, I definitely need to start looking at like a moisture trap underneath my airbrush. The moisture trap basically means that it catches all the moisture that is created inside the air hose, and it stops the moisture from getting to the airbrush. I have one on my compressor, but it's at the beginning of the hose, not at the end of the hose. So I do have to kind of check if I can get like a moisture trap underneath here, because I'm getting a lot of moisture spitting basically sometimes. Yeah, those things are not cheap. Those are like for 35 bucks, 40 bucks. Need to go back in with. Need to go back in because